I'm Sarah. I am with Citrix Online, or the Online Services Division. I've been with them for quite some time, so I'm quite honored to be here. In terms of winning the cosmic lottery of being born in a specific place and a time, I think that I won. I was born in the early 80s, so I grew up right alongside the personal computer. In fact, my parents, who didn't know very much about technology, bought us a HP Vectra 486 in the early 90s, which quickly became my best friend. So the 90s were great too. I have wonderful things to say about the 90s, but mostly because I got to come of age with these guys. So I'm sure many of you can relate. Pogs, I had to throw Pogs in there. You know, I've always been enthralled with electronics, and I soak up anything and everything wherever I can. However, my rural high school didn't offer anything in the way of computer classes, no programming, no PC repair. So I took the only two classes that got me in front of a computer, computer accounting and word processing. So when I graduated from high school, I left California and I moved to Phoenix, where I was able to leverage that training into the position as an office manager, which turned out to be the best, worst job I've ever had, because I quickly found out that I never wanted to do this for a living. So I was fortunate enough to network, and I had friends in the IT department that when I applied with this company for a help desk position, I was able to get it. When I began working in IT, there weren't these remote assistance tools. Everything was walk through on the phone. It was in the bottom right-hand corner. So what do you see now? It is very, very painful. So now, as a full-fledged member in IT many, many years later, I think about what's the best way to help IT, and I'd like to create maybe a boot camp that involves helping grandparents over the phone for a few weeks, get to know their computers better, because the soft skills, especially in IT, I don't know if it's common, if it's a thing that people want to promote more, but it's very passionate and near and dear to my heart. You got to calm people down, you've got to reassure them, you've got to help them get through some very complicated stuff. In many cases, you have no option but to just talk them through it. You know, so imagine 5 years later, I'm with Citrix, and now we have these just amazing, beautiful products that will put you right in the room with the customer. You know, GoToAssist has changed my life. There is not a day that goes by where I am not with someone in some remote part of the globe. When I joined Citrix in 2004, originally it was in the call center, and then I was able to transfer into the IT department in 2005. I was 3 months pregnant at the time, so I spent those 5 months just kind of waddling up and down the hallway with a monitor and a PC under each arm. But I wanted to be in IT so badly. I had to work on a card table in my director's office. It was a room that had no heat or air conditioning. I wore fingerless mittens to keep my hands warm for typing through the winter. And I had to get Microsoft certified in 3 months. But I tell you, if I had to do it again, I would do it all over again. I was fortunate enough in 2010 to go full-time remote when I bought a home near Placerville. So over the years, as Citrix Online spread out, more and more of my calls were with users who weren't based in our headquartered office in Santa Barbara. So it became a natural progression that if I wasn't in Santa Barbara, if they weren't in Santa Barbara, it's not necessary for me to be in Santa Barbara. However, I'll say that, you know, working from home has its drawbacks. I feel very, you know, I'm always closest to the office, so I feel a lot of pressure to respond to urgent issues or help people out whenever. I mean, technically, I'm right there, you know, so I have to be very deliberate about the work and home boundaries. You know, it really is very difficult to keep a 9 to 5 when you work from home, at least I find. And, you know, compounding this issue, my husband, who works for Citrix Online in engineering or the Online Service Division, has very similar work habits. We have to plan our days out to make sure the kids can be shuttled to and from, to make sure that, you know, our meetings don't necessarily overlap with some other commitments that we have at the time. But I'll say our kids love it now that we're remote. They get to come home after school, they get a leisurely snack, they have time to play and do their homework. But the joke in the house is, now what do my kids think work is? Mom and dad sitting around home all day in front of a computer. So I kind of worry, what sort of model am I a work ethic am I modeling for them? But I will say the transition to remote was incredibly tough. It was very difficult to leave my team and the office environment. I tend to be a little bit on the social side, so I felt that immediately. I missed the interaction. And the first year that I went remote was the most difficult year that I had with Citrix Online. There was a very difficult transition period where we tried to figure out, who am I now? What is my role? What do I do? How do I fit in? And we hadn't had a remote IT agent at the time, so we were blazing new trails. Initially, we thought that we could better justify the remote transition by giving me a special role within the department, but so much of the company now and so much of the world is so spread out that it seemed completely irrelevant. I worked just like every other member of the team, and it was quickly clear that that was the case. So most of the agents now work just like I do. There's no set, are they here, are they there, are they global? It doesn't matter. You take what you get and then you just contact them, which is great. The biggest challenge now is just keeping up the camaraderie in our group, the group cohesion. I try to get down to Santa Barbara to work out of our office once a quarter if I can do it. Perhaps it's a perk, but it's become very essential. They feel it when I'm there, and we miss it when I'm gone. I think it's very important to stay connected with your group, especially when you can't see them that often. We've started doing our meetings over HD Faces now, which has really broken down a lot of the barriers. And in fact, recently, for fun, when HD Faces came out, we produced a short video of this concept. We thought, well, with HD Faces, it's a shame I can't just be around, maybe set up a cube. So we thought to put a laptop on a Roomba and just let me float around the office. But that kind of merged into a little video I want to show you real quick of what we ended up putting together.
Sarah's been remote now for, I guess about a year and some, a little bit. And it's really working out great. I mean, she's getting a lot of work done and everything like that, working remotely. But what we really miss is her presence in the office. I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, well, I want the best of both worlds. I want her to be able to work from home, but I also want her to be present. So I was thinking, what about a virtual Sarah?
Hi, I'm Sarah, and this is how I use HD Faces.
I cannot stress enough how much more connected I feel now with HD Faces. This is a typical work meeting for us. We have a conference room, we have our remote guys. So now we can connect better. The gestures, the nuances, the expressions, you miss these when you're just on the phone in the meetings. It's difficult, I find, to contribute when the group is together and I'm the one on the phone. And HD Faces has really helped overcome this obstacle for us. They remember that I'm there. Those of us who are remote feel adrift and isolated at times. And it's really essential, I find, to take the time and the trouble to get together for bonding, idea sharing, the water cooler, all those things that are missed. And I need people to remember what I look like, that I exist, that I'm not dead yet, and I need to feel a part of this community, as opposed to my fear that I'm the disembodied IT technician, and I worry that I'm the last to know what's going on. This is us at a recent group event. We got together in Southern California with my team. We try to do this as much as, about once a year if we can get away with it. So going forward, it'll be interesting to see how the next few years pan out. I've had to work very hard to get to where I am, and thankfully it's been at a field I've been passionate about. But I do look forward to seeing what the future is going to shape. So much about this business is going global and becoming more dependent on technology. And it's a really great time to be in IT. I see my role as an ambassador of IT. As the users become more technologically savvy and the technology becomes a lot more fun, it's thankful that, you know, it's a great time, you know, for, especially with tools that we produce. But, you know, I'm also very thankful that we have communities like this, things that weren't there when I started, these Girl Geek dinners, this way to share our experiences, and, you know, we're so much more connected now. And growth doesn't happen right in a you know, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. But I want to thank all of you for having me here and listening to me talk. It's been a pleasure for me to be involved with such a dynamic and intelligent group of individuals. And I'd like to turn it over now to Manu, who's going to speak next. Thank you very much.